Hi, Claudia. Welcome to the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast.
Hi, Julia. Thank you so much.
Yes, so looking forward to our conversation. Much like other guests on the show recently, you're part of the CPC program, so I've gotten to know you there, which has been so great. We got to meet at the Reimagining Health Summit, but I'm looking forward to you sharing your story with our listeners because it's, I think, unique and really interesting, and I can't wait for them to hear it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. What I would love to do to start is, can you share with everybody what you're currently doing with your IHP certification? And then I'll have you kind of share the backstory, what you were doing before that, and what led you to IHP.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm currently an IHP too. I do have a few private clients, helping them from hormonal imbalances to gut health, or people who just want to transform their body and get stronger, boost their metabolism. So all my clients do vary quite a bit with what they want. Some of them just want to be healthy, and I've introduced them to the world of functional medicine lab testing, which was very new to most of them. And they're all like super amazed at the amount of information that we can actually gather from the body. And it's been really amazing to see their own growth in their health and wellness journey. It's very fulfilling as well to see how they're just like more energetic than they were before, sleeping better, just like the simple things that sometimes we take for granted, but we know most people struggle with in the day-to-day. So that's what I've been up to. I do have a few clients and expanding my practice as time goes. I'm super grateful for that. So I guess just some of my background story. I am actually a biomedical engineer. I've always been super interested in the health and wellness space. I considered being a doctor at some point in my life, but once I saw how much education you needed for that and like everything it took to become a doctor, I was like, not for me. I was always very good with numbers and like just science in general and physics and chemistry. So engineering felt like a good fit for me. Also, everyone in my family is an engineer. So I was like, oh, why not engineering? Biomedical, medicine, engineering, perfect. So I went that route. And I started working for a medical device company after I graduated college. I worked for 7+ years in the medical device field, developing medical devices, surgical devices mostly. Love technology and whatnot. But because of my own health struggles, I had so many hormonal imbalances since I was a little girl, hypothyroidism, PCOS, you name it. Went on birth control when I was 13 years old only, and took it for probably 10, 12 years. After a while, really struggling with my mental health. I didn't know at the time it was probably because of the birth control. Eventually, I decided to quit it. But then my period disappeared completely. I got acne, I got weight gain, like all these crazy things. And it was really nerve-wracking. My doctors couldn't figure out what was going on. I remember at one point they even scanned my brain because they thought I could have a tumor in my brain. Like it was really scary. Spent 2.5 years with no menstrual cycle whatsoever. I started to give up. To be honest, I was like, maybe this is what life wants for me, and I'm just not meant to be a mom. And, all these things that you go through, it was pretty hard, I have to say, at the time. One day, listening to the Mind Pump podcast, Dr. Stephen Cabral was a host, and he talked about functional medicine and the Big Five labs and all these things. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And I looked further into it, and literally right away, I purchased the Big Five and I did them. And when I saw the amount of information and like data that you can gather from those labs, I was amazed. I was also frustrated that my doctors never even thought to look for that information. But right away, I did the functional medicine detox, and like I had a lot of work to do. So a lot of the other protocols I needed to do, but literally within week 2 of my functional medicine detox, my menstrual cycle came. So my period came back. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what is this? I've been struggling for 2.5 years to get it, and now I'm just getting a period. I couldn't believe it. So I knew I had to dig deeper and like really understand. I'm an engineer. I like to problem solve, and I really need to like dig deep and understand what's happening. Because at first I thought this like holistic health thing was like a woo-woo thing, but it turns out it's science. It's pure science. It's just doctors aren't trained to look at it that way. So I dove deeper, signed up to be an IHP. I was like, I need to help other people rebalance their body. And I really need to make sure they're listening to this information, because I don't think there's a lot of education out there on it. And a lot of people still want to stick to like more traditional methods that maybe don't work for their chronic illness. So anyways, all of that led me to becoming an IHP, and slowly just started telling my friends and people I knew, like, hey guys, I've been struggling with this for years. I've been able to come out the other side. And now I want to help people, because I do think there's a lot of power in what IHP teaches, and I guess all the knowledge that we get and how we can help people. So that's what I've been doing. I now have my own private clients. I have been doing it full time for now. Eventually I'll probably need to do it part-time because I need to go back to work, which we can dive into why that is in a second. But anyways, being an IHP is really what my mission in life is. I found my calling because of my own personal experience.
Yes. Yeah. And it's such a similar, everybody's actual diagnosis, their health struggles, their path is different, but ultimately so many of us are passionate about what we do because we've been like in the dark. We've been without answers. We've been failed by conventional medicine. We've been in the place where we wish we had these answers and we didn't know they existed until we knew, right? And so many people, I listen to people kind of talk sometimes cynically about, people who make poor choices and what they feed their kids and what they make for decisions. And there is a large population that I believe would do better if they knew better. And yes, there's people that don't care and they choose to do whatever, but I think there are a lot of people, right? It's that gray area. Things are not black and white, that would feed their kids differently if they knew what they were giving their kids, what it was actually doing to them long term, right? I think that they would consider functional medicine testing if they even knew it existed, right? And so we kind of all have this fire, this passion of making sure that we tell and people know as much as possible that there's another avenue, right? If you're not feeling like you're well cared for, or that doctors are prioritizing prevention or root cause analysis, that there's another way. There's something else that's incredibly valuable that frankly is usually more beneficial because it is root cause support and foundational support rather than a Band-Aid approach, that there's something else out there. And I think so many people still, when you're in the IHP world and like all your contacts are IHPs and all you listen to is this stuff, it's hard. I have to remind myself, like, this is not layman speak. This is like your world. But to a lot of people, this is like foreign information. Even, sometimes when I like make a comment about something to like a mom at school, she's like, what? And I'm like, oh, okay. Sorry. You don't know what the nervous system is? Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll explain with it. Right. But like, I keep talking, you're like the adrenals, and someone's like, the what? But so many people, I think, would do better if they knew better. And bringing that knowledge to the world is really like the beauty behind what we do. And it's because we know we've been there. We were once without this knowledge. We were once without this community, and we want it for everybody else.
And some people really know the basics, right? Like people know, okay, I have to eat healthy. I don't know exactly how, but I know I have to be healthier or like exercise more or whatever, but they don't know what's appropriate for them or how to even get to the root. Like, don't get me wrong. I've always considered myself as someone relatively healthy. Like I've always enjoyed eating healthy and exercising and doing all these things. But despite all of that, my body was still a mess. So it was really, I wasn't doing what was right for me at the time. So I think that's when it's really valuable to get the help of a health coach or someone who can really dive deep into the root causes to put you on the right path.
Yep, absolutely. Yes. Okay. I would love to switch gears a little bit about what happened recently with, because you kind of said that you might have to go back to work eventually. So your career as a tell me.
Biomedical engineer.
Biomedical engineer. I was going to say biomedical device. And I was like, that's too many. Biomedical engineer. You took some time off from that. And I think what I would love to kind of drive home to our listeners is life unfolds in unexpected ways. And we always have the choice of how do we view it and what do we do with it, right? And what happened to you could have totally been something that was devastating. It could have inflicted a lot of fear. Maybe it did for a short period of time, which is normal, right? But then you kind of like pick your pieces up and decide what to do next. And it's ultimately what we choose to do with what we have in front of us. And we can view it as something happening for us or to us. And ultimately, it's our point of view and our actions that really shape where it kind of leads us in our path. So I would love for you to share with our listeners what happened, and kind of how it got you to where you are with a practice now.
Sure. Yeah. I think life put me in a very unique situation. So for some context, I was born and raised in Venezuela. I moved out of Venezuela when I was 17, lived in Canada for a year. That was too cold. So then moved to California when I was 18. And that's when I studied university and whatnot. As someone who came into the US, as you can imagine, I had to go through an immigration process that it's been years and I'm still going through. So I first started as a student. I got a student visa because of the university that I studied at. And then after I graduated, I was super fortunate to find a job at a company who was willing to sponsor me for a work visa. And so this company, again, sponsored me for a work visa, but a work visa is a temporary status that you get in the United States. It's not something permanent. So it only lasts a few years. You can renew it once, and that's it. So once it expires, you have to figure out what your next step is. Like, how do you stay in the US if that's what you want? So the company, if they still want to keep you, they have the option to now sponsor you for a green card, which is permanent residency in the US. So my company, again, I'm super fortunate and grateful that they were willing to sponsor me for the green card. But what happened was, because the green card has a lot of different steps to complete. Basically, the company has to prove that only I can perform the job. No other person. They even have to go through a recruitment process where they interview people and they have to show that only I'm the one eligible and equipped to do the job. So that all takes time to do and to prove, basically. And you have to deal with the Department of Labor, who gives you a labor certificate. That process with the Department of Labor took a really long time. It got delayed. And because that process got so delayed, my work visa expired. So I was left in this limbo where my process was with the Department of Labor. They have nothing to do with immigration. My work visa expired. And until my labor certificate was approved and we were able to file the green card with immigration, I was in a limbo. So what happened was, in December of 2023, my work visa had expired. I found out only like a few months before that was going to happen. And so I was in this place where, okay, I need to leave the US. I can no longer work at the company. I can't be hired or in payroll for a US based company because I don't have a work visa. And what do I do? And I was freaking out because, one, I have to admit, I was really burned out at work already. Like, there was a lot going on in the company at the time. My responsibilities were so much more than like I should have been handling at the time. It was a lot going on. And on top of that, all this life stress that it's like, oh my gosh, I need to leave the US. What am I going to do? I probably need to live off my savings, or maybe I should go to a different country and find a job somewhere else. Like, what do I do? How do I fix my life? I had to sell my car, just figure all these things out. And I was really trying to like ask myself, what do I want to do right now? It's a lot to handle. And I knew deep down what I needed was a break. So initially I was like, you know what? This is life giving me an opportunity to just take a break because I know I need this break. But at the same time, I had all this uncertainty of when is my immigration situation going to resolve? This could take a couple months. This could take a year. But like, I had no idea. So it's like, how do you plan your life not knowing what's going to happen? So one of the biggest things for me was learning to live with uncertainty, learn to live literally day by day, and understanding that like we don't have control of what's going to happen 6 months from now. We have control of what's happening today. So how can I live my life so I focus on today? One of the biggest lessons for me, for sure. I also know I'm not someone who can just be on an endless vacation. That doesn't work for me. I think I can be on vacation for a couple of weeks, fun, but then I need something to do. And because I always had this like health and wellness thing in the back of my mind that I've loved, it was a perfect opportunity to finish my IHP certifications and just start diving into it. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start posting content on Instagram, spreading information, sharing to the world and to my friends and family that I've been going through all of this and I've been struggled with my health in all these areas. And I want to help people now. And it was crazy how in a matter of like weeks, I started having friends and people who already knew me reach out asking me for help. They wanted to improve their health. They wanted to rebalance their bodies in all these different ways, and they wanted my help. I was like, whoa, this is cool. And so I started actually having clients and seeing people and learning how to be an entrepreneur. So with that, I was so grateful that the universe in a way put me in this position where my work visa had expired, because I could utilize this time to build the practice of my dreams. And honestly, if it wasn't, I feel like that was the impulse that I needed to kind of build this practice and learn how to be an entrepreneur and do all the things that it takes to be able to build a successful health coaching practice. But I always knew in the back of my mind that eventually the process that we're waiting for was going to, resume, and that the company would file for the green card. The company that I'm working for, or I was working for, they were willing to wait however long it took for the process, for then me to go back and continue with the process. That was another fear I had. They could at some point be like, you know what, we're tired of waiting. You go figure it out. And then that was going to be another issue, right? But at the time, or all this time, I've just had to be like, just be okay with whatever happens. Just don't attach to the result. So anyways, eventually the Department of Labor gave us the paper that we were waiting for. The company recently was able to extend now the work permit that I had before so they can file for the green card. And these are all things that are moving now. And in January, I need to go back to work because at the end of the day, my stay in the United States does depend on the company. So if I don't work for the company, I'm not going to get my green card. So until I get my green card, I don't really have that like freedom. I know that sounds ugly to say, but I won't really have that freedom to like work somewhere else or do something else. So really what I'm planning to do, of course, I'm going to go back and work with the company. I think it's great. It's a great company to work for. Like, don't get me wrong. So for now, I'm going to do that until I get my green card. On the side, I will definitely continue to be an IHP, continue building my practice, because it's not like I'm going to get hundreds of clients overnight. I think that's going to be something that I have to be consistent on and keep building up until I can get like a full practice where maybe in the future, once I have my full residency and permanent stay in the US, I can consider transitioning fully into.
Yes. Yeah. I love the point that you brought up initially, which is the uncertainty, right? Uncertainty, I think for so many people, it really is the fear-driven emotion, I think, that really prevents people from taking these, quote, scary steps, or, taking the risk, starting the business, leaving the job, and the uncertainty, getting comfortable with uncertainty, like you were almost forced into it, right? It was like you didn't really have a choice. You could have really kind of, crumbled with, fear and, victim mentality and like, gosh, now what, right? You could have even said like, I'm just going to, go back to Venezuela and do something else, or maybe I'll move to Canada and get another job, and let like the fear kind of push you in a direction that didn't feel, so aligned. But instead you chose to, after, you dealt with the initial shock of it all, to make a decision that like, no, I am in control here. And looking at it like as a gift, right? It was presented to you as a, who knows, right? How many years down the line you may have started your business if,
Yeah.
Everything went smooth with the green card. You got it. You stayed at that company. It may have been harder for you to leave and just start a business and go from one to the other. You got a crash course in uncertainty very quickly. And so like getting comfortable with it and all of that. But again, you would have you had two choices in that scenario, and some people would have chose very differently. And I think the kind of lesson here from like a business, coaching standpoint is like there's really no guarantees for any of us. The ability to kind of sit with both uncertainty and trust. I feel like, when you have a level of trust that, and I've said it on the show before, like whatever your belief is, right? Is it the universe? Is it, the divine? Is it God? Is it whatever your belief is of kind of something bigger having your back, right? And just having the trust that between your own skills, your own work ethic, your own, knowledge and all of that, and plus just innate trust in what the unknown, what lies in the unknown, really allows you to kind of settle in and take an actionable positive step than kind of falling back with fear and kind of, feeling like a victim, because anybody looking on could have been like, oh my gosh, this happened to you. This is hard. This is, oh my God. Right. Yeah. And you probably felt like that for a short period of time. And then you were like, all right, time to make lemonade with some lemons that I got.
And I love that you brought up the word trust, because it is about trusting. And I firmly believe that everything that happens in your life is being thrown at you for a reason. Doesn't matter how bad it seems, just trust that it's happening because there's a lesson to learn. There's an experience that you have to have. There's something in there for you to take. And, it's like you said, initially had this initial shock of like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with my life? This is crazy. A lot of people that I spoke about this were looking at me like, that's so unfair. Like, why is this happening to you? Oh my gosh. And I was like, honestly, once I got through the initial shock, deep down, I was like, you guys have no idea how excited I am about this time. Like, I'm so excited. Who gets this opportunity to just take time off, knowing that your company's waiting for you with a secure job when you're going to be back? That probably only happens when you become a mom, that you get maternity leave. But here I'm not becoming a mom or taking care of a child. It's just me. So I get to use this time to travel. So I did have to kind of become a bit nomadic for a year. Took some time to travel, go to different places while I was building a practice. And I think all of that just allowed me to just open my mind and open my eyes to the opportunities that the universe was providing to me. And from the perspective of like business, it was knowing myself in this position, because I had never been an entrepreneur. And don't get me wrong, like you're seeing me here with a smile and like all good things, but like for all of you who are entrepreneurs, it's hard. Like there are days where you're questioning yourself, like, am I on the right track? Am I doing the right thing? Like, is this what I'm supposed to do? Maybe I should give up and just go get that job again to feel secured or whatever. It's hard. Like, it's definitely not an easy path. Like I question myself all the time. But then it's grabbing on those moments where you did something well, or like you helped that one person, or someone said thank you. That's what, at least for me, it like feeds me and it keeps me going, and knowing that I don't need to give up. It's all a matter of just being persistent, keep going. It won't happen overnight that you become this like super successful entrepreneur. At least I don't think that's typically what happens. I think you just have to be consistent and keep going. And that's what I keep telling myself.
Yes. Yeah. And the consistency, again, showing up for yourself, showing up for your clients, showing up for, your community that you're building. It's so important, as far as even just kind of sending that message out, like, this is my purpose, right? Being able to, kind of energetically pour into that by continuing to show up, that only builds over time.
Exactly. And like, I don't think we're all like born with like an innate ability to just like be a successful entrepreneur. Like we just learn these things, and you have to like go for it, mess up, make mistakes, learn from them, keep going. It's all trial and error. Like we all see the end result, like the success, but people don't typically see like what's happening behind the scenes and all the moments where maybe you didn't succeed or like you made all these mistakes. Maybe not a lot of people are like documenting their mistakes, right? They just show, hey, I was able to achieve this thing. So I think it's a matter of just like keep going and know that every mistake and every lesson is one step closer to getting the results that you want.
Yes. Yeah. And I've seen a quote, and I'm probably not going to do it like perfect justice, but I think it's, the difference, it's something to the effect of, someone else is no smarter than you are. The only difference between where someone else is and where you want to be is they chose to start. And it's one of those things where like, if you just, because I think what holds most people back is just starting to begin with. Right. And I think that's why we kind of had this little topic of, trusting the uncertainty and just taking the leap and going for it anyway, when it looks like maybe things are falling apart. Maybe they're falling together, right? Because you could have looked at it as like, my life is falling apart in front of my eyes. And it was like this opening for you to be able to start something that would have been significantly delayed had you had status with that company ongoing and there was no interruption, right?
Probably. So,
yeah, I think, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I think it feels good to be in a comfortable spot, right? Like once you're like, yeah, I've been in this company for a while and I know exactly what I'm doing. Like I know my job, maybe you're learning new things or whatever, but I've come to realize that unless we put ourselves in uncomfortable situations, we're probably not going to grow and evolve. And that's how I try to take this whole time. I was like, okay, well, this is uncomfortable. I'm someone who's always been very structured. Like I was the good student. I was the person who always had a plan. Like you graduate, you get your job and like just follow the normal path. And then life threw me all of this. I'm like, this is definitely not the normal path. Like all my plans down the toilet. And so just learning to be fine in that uncomfortable situation and like actually utilize it to propel me forward. Don't get me wrong. The whole idea of just exposing myself on Instagram and talking about my story and saying all these things was so nerve-wracking to me. I still struggle a little with Instagram and trying to post constantly and show my face on it and all these things. So every time I'm struggling with, I tell myself, it's okay. This is an uncomfortable situation. Just have to push through. Like you got this. And even if only one person hears my message, then that's one more person than before. Right.
Yes. Yeah. And the comfortability is usually because we're not triggered there, and uncomfortable things kind of trigger something inside of us. But ultimately it's those triggers, even if they're just whispers, right? And not like, that's where we learn something about ourselves. That's where we learn where we need to grow. That's where we learn where we're really excelling. That's where we learn, okay, this is something I need to, get better at. And it really is what we're meant to do here. I mean, I think it's no different why, lots of relationships, like everything seems perfect in the beginning. And then like a few years down the line, you realize like, oh, we're triggering each other in certain ways, right? Because that's like the work. It's we kind of, there's some relationship therapists out there that think you married like your unfinished business, right? For the only reason that like we are meant to evolve as human beings, and evolving takes being uncomfortable. It takes being vulnerable. It takes, stepping out of the comfortable, box that feels good and safe. And I think the uncertainty, for me, like when I became a mom, right, I dealt with like less control. There was definitely more uncertainty, but like less control, right? You get through different phases of life, you get dealt different. I think yours was probably more extreme and more, could have been jarring for a full year, and you could have worried for a full year, and, woe is me for a full year, but you built a business. And yes, you still get to go back to your other job, but you also don't lose what you built, which is amazing, right? If you went to another company and worked for somebody else, when you leave there, you kind of do, you maintain your knowledge, but like, that's not there, right? You don't go back there, but this is yours. You built this belongs to you. Your community belongs to you, your business, your clients, and you get to go back to it and continue to serve people whenever you choose to.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you said a very powerful word that is something that I try to remind myself of, and it's control. I like to let go of control, because we want to control all these things. And like, don't get me wrong, after a few months of not hearing back about whether my labor certificate was going to like be processed or whatever, I again, a lot of doubts started coming in, because it's like, sure, I have a business now, but I'm not making the amount of money that I would like to make. Yeah, I know I will be able to, but again, it doesn't happen overnight. I know it will take some time before I'm able to sustain myself financially. Like, what do I do? Do I find a job somewhere else in the world eventually to like make money? Or like, I don't know. It was very nerve-wracking for months, and to the point where I think it was even harming the way I was building my own IHP business, because I was just like trying to control the situation as best as I could, and overstressing about it so much that I spoke to someone at the time who told me, just let go, like just trust that what's happening to you is what's supposed to happen to you. And like, it's going to be okay. It's going to work out. And once I let go of that control, it was crazy. Literally within a month, we heard back from the Department of Labor, and I heard news. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, we keep going. We keep going the same way I've been going through my life in the last few months. So sometimes you feel like you need a little bit of hope, or like a light at the end of the tunnel, or something to tell you that like you're on the right path and like you should keep going. But the reason I'm sharing all of this is because of that need that a lot of us sometimes have to like want to control situations, and we forget to just like let go and trust that we take actions and let life unfold.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we are in control of so much, and we excel and do our most there, but then there is so much that we are out of control of, and not gripping tight to things that we can't have an influence on, because it, I think, energetically disrupts the process of what's flowing to us anyway. Yeah. I would love to just take a slight little detour, because I want to be able to touch upon this topic, because it's something that I had talked to another IHP about, but I absolutely love when we see, regardless of what language it is, right? Any IHPs that speak other languages, because we know how impactful this information is just in English, right? But English is not the only language. And there are so many communities, so many cultures, so many people that need to hear this information just beyond English speaking United States residents, right? And you're creating content both in English and Spanish, correct?
Yes.
And sometimes doing it with double the work and being able to bring a lot of really what we believe is so impactful to a Hispanic community that might not be getting it elsewhere. So tell me a little bit about where your passion lies there and what that's been like.
Oh, absolutely. It's like you said, a lot of this information that we learn in IHP is available in English. And in fact, I fall into this too, where if I have to find information on something, I'll search for it in English, even though Spanish is my native language, is the language I feel the most comfortable speaking. I'll search for the information in English because I know I'll find better information in English than Spanish. So that really triggered me to think that, well, if I have all this information, I speak Spanish, why not spread a lot of this information in Spanish to really serve those communities who don't speak English? Even within the United States, there are actually a lot of people who don't speak English. I live in Florida. I see a lot of people who don't speak very well English. And so that's why I really wanted to start disseminating all this information in Spanish as well, without losing English speakers, right? Because at the end of the day, English speakers also need to hear this information, and maybe I get access to some people that other people don't, and maybe my story resonates with other people, who knows? But anyways, like you said, it is double the work. And every time I find myself being like, oh my gosh, this would take me like half the time if I didn't write it in Spanish too. But I'm always like remembering my why. Like, Claudia, you are meant to help Hispanics as well, and like Latin Americans and Spanish speakers. So it's something I enjoy, actually, just being able to use both languages. And funny enough, most of my clients are Spanish speakers. So it's really interesting because that's who I end up attracting most of the time. I think it's just easy when you connect with someone from your own culture or who can like understand what you're feeling. Sometimes you need to like just communicate, express yourself, have someone to listen. And if they're more comfortable speaking in Spanish and they can work with someone who understands, I think that'll make their own journey so much better.
Yes. Yeah, because health and wellness can be such a personalized part of someone's life. And I think there's can be vulnerability that sits there with like the conversations that you're going to have, or maybe even shame, right, from symptoms that someone might be having, and I think when there's a barrier of language, right, that might put somebody kind of like, oh, I don't really want to have this conversation if, they're not going to fully understand, right? What do our clients absolutely love? They love to feel understood for the first time, right? So many clients just break down at the thought of someone understanding them for the first time because their doctors have dismissed, and language is such a big part of that if even anybody of, Spanish speaking, Hispanic cultures, they know this information exists, right? The language barrier of working with someone might be kind of what prevents them from moving forward. And so I love that you're doing that. And then the ripple effect in those cultures is greater, right? Who knows, how much of Florida, right? You kind of have that ripple effect over reaching lots of people that are able to pass along, she's doing this and she speaks Spanish. And so people that feel comfortable reaching out, because not only will they feel understood from your knowledge, but understood from language.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I now even have clients in Argentina, which is crazy. I mean, of course, sometimes you have to deal with, it's different types of clients, right? Maybe you can't do the labs because we don't ship to Argentina, and that's okay. But there are so many other things that we can do and like touch on the nutrition and exercise and find the right supplements for them and do all the mindset work. And there's so many other things that we can work on that it really doesn't matter where a client is. I think if I'm able to disseminate this information in Spanish, I can have a much larger reach across the globe, not even just in the United States.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So wonderful. If people are listening and they want to kind of connect with you further, where are all the places that you show up, social media, websites, any of that?
Yeah, sure. So my Instagram account is at Claudia Cetrola. So that's ClaudiaCetrola, in case you don't know how to spell it. And so Instagram is what I use the most. My website, www.claudiacetrola.com. So I try to keep everything very consistent with the Claudia Cetrola. Mostly Instagram and my website, I'll say, are my two main points of contact. Please reach out if you ever have any questions or just want to connect. Feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much for being a guest on the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast. This was such a great conversation. And I think your story will probably be incredibly inspiring to so many listeners that maybe are wrestling with the uncertainty or trusting, right? Being able to trust. And so I thank you so much for sharing it with us all.
Yeah, thank you so much, Julia. This was so much fun.
Thanks, Claudia. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Bye.